Hello. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. I am sitting looking out the window because it's another beautiful day here in Kansas. We have had such a warm week that has felt like a divine introduction to spring, even though we're not quite there yet. I've been soaking it up as much as we possibly can because I think there's some more rounds of snow coming sooner than later. So, yeah, I hope you're doing well wherever you are in your little corner of the world. We are in some really interesting energy right now in general with the world at large, and I suspect each of us individually have things playing out where I am going to adjust one thing real quick just to make sure. I always forget to check that I have the volume turned up on my microphone. There we go. It's as good as it can be. There. So each of us individually has our own little mini version of these massive energies that are unfolding. And before we get into all of that, that's a good girl. Lay down. I just was thinking before I came on here how freaking grateful I am for astrology in general, like the language of astrology, the tool of astrology, the method of astrology. Like, it's really just a way to try to understand even just a little bit more what's going on in this crazy magical carpet ride called life. Like, the more we understand it, I feel like the easier our path becomes, and the more we're able to use whatever energy we're in a really productive way. So it's like, how can we leverage this energy? There is no good energy or bad energy. There can be intense energy and more subtle energy. That's a thing for sure. And this right now, I would say, is a little intense. It's got a lot going on. Like, there's just a lot of things processing in the energy soup that we're all sitting in together. So we're going to go all through that, but yeah, I just like really wanted to speak to my gratitude and my appreciation for astrology in general, because like it brought me to a place where I'm now here talking to you all. And that feels really right in my world. It feels like the divine path unfolding under my feet, like one step at a time, and not even really knowing that I wanted to study astrology and being brought to it anyway through life's little unfoldings. And now to have developed enough of an understanding of astrology, and I build it almost every single day to get more of an understanding, but I'm able to communicate with this audience who also feels this resonance with this astrological understanding of what's going on right now, and like how we can better make sense of our personal evolution and the things that are rising in our world. Like, I know for a fact that I look at my life completely differently thanks to astrology, thanks to understanding that we are all 12 of the zodiac energies. We all contain the light and the shadow of all of that. And it's really just a matter of like, what's bubbling to your surface right now? And how crazy are you about that? Like, do you like it? Do you not like it? I could go either way. Sometimes I have stuff that bubbles up that I'm like, wow, that's so cool. Oh, the crooked trail. See, that's so cool. You've been meaning to get here. I know. I read your comments and I'm so glad. I knew in divine timing it's going to happen. And look at, like, here we are with the sun basically conjunct Jupiter today in Pisces, coming off the heels of the Pisces new moon, which was only a couple of days ago. There is this opening, there's this new level of existence that a lot of us can feel. And because we're in Pisces territory, there is 3 a.m. in Australia, and you're watching this. Like, wow. Do you work nights? Do you are you normally up at 3 a.m.? Is that a thing for you? Or are you making a special effort to be here? Either way, that's really cool. And I appreciate that. And look at, astrology is what brought us together. But I know from reading so many of your guys' comments that we all are much more than just astrology. That's one tool. And the more I lean into astrology and the more I just love to talk about it. So I just keep making videos. And now there's people referring to me, and I'm manifesting being told or called an astrologer. And that's an interesting experience because I don't consider myself to be an astrologer. I consider myself to be a student of astrology. And I'm learning so much more every single day about this powerful tool and how to use it and how to get the most good out of it for not only myself, but also sharing messages that help other people to get good out of this tool called astrology. And all the while doing this for free because I love it. I heard, oh my gosh, I've been waiting all week to tell you guys this. I heard a saying the other day on a podcast, the Deja Blue podcast. I've been plugging it every chance I get on purpose because I have found so much value there. And this is me paying it forward to Blue for creating that podcast. An episode of the Deja Blue, and it was the guest was Reverend Brianna Lynn, and she was talking about her philosophy around money and income, and her philosophy is let 20% of your work make 80% of your income. Let 20% of your work make 80% of your income. That means work a couple of days a month, a few days a month, a handful of days a month, and make all of your money. And then you have 25 days a month that are just free days where you get to show up as your soul, as your most divine self in this world. And as I heard her say that, it was one of the many crying releases that I had this week, because that was very reaffirming to me as far as how I have my spiritual path or offerings or whatever you want to call it set up at this point. I am doing individual readings. I do have that offering on my website, but I'm only doing it 3 days out of the month. And my rate reflects that there are only a very limited number of these appointments available. And then 80% of my time, I make YouTube videos where people can watch them for free. I do live streams where people can watch them for free. I'm stepping into this Patreon space where people can subscribe for $1 a month if that's what they have and be a part of this. So I'm doing what I can to take money out of the equation, and all of this feels so Pisces to me, to where I've had jobs where I made really good money, and in making really good money there was such an emptiness to it. There was clearly something missing. This isn't everything. This isn't even close to what I thought it was going to be like to make all this money. And now as I'm situated this way, where I'm really concerned about making a bare minimum amount to pay my bills, to survive in my own experience. And then every time that isn't going towards paying my bills for this month is a path of doing what my soul is calling me to do, showing up in ways that feel good to my heart, to my soul. And when she gave voice to that idea in a much more physical way than I had ever related to it. I mean, I had it set up already where, okay, I'm only going to do individual sessions 3 days a month, because really I don't want to offer that. My main offering is this free stuff over here. That's really where my heart is. And so I already had it set up that way, and I had caught some shit about how high my prices are. And so that was a whole thing to work through. And so to hear her say that, where that's how she thinks about her rates, and that there is such a benefit to the collective by charging the higher price. Not everyone is going to afford it, and that's just, that is what it is. And you put the bulk of your heart and soul, you invest your energy into this, which represents who you really are, like your higher self, like the things that you're doing for fun that you would do even if you didn't get paid to do them. You're doing it because your soul isn't going to let you rest until you do that. Doing it because when you daydream about what is it that you really want in this physical reality, this is it. Like I've shared before, my daydream is to be on a stage in front of thousands of people. Like I see myself in that setting. That's where I want to be. I've been there before and I want to be there on a regular basis. And a professor I had back in the day, in the very first meeting I had with him, he asked what my dream job was, and I told him I want to be a professional public speaker. And he was like, "That's so cool! Oh my gosh!" And I was feeling really good because I had the answer to his question. I was like, "Yeah, nailed it." Follow up. What do you want to talk about? I literally had nothing. For like 8 years, I had nothing. I had like no idea what I wanted to talk about. And that was like, that question was so profound for me. What do you want to talk about? That's 7 words, 6 words. However, I just did that. Yeah, I counted them and I can't even count them. That's Pisces season for you. But it's okay. I make that joke. And that also brings up something else that I want to clarify around Pisces, yes, but all of the zodiac archetypes and astrology in general, this tool that we're all gathered around and that we're using to try to get some value, some understanding, some clarity out of this tool. These archetypes are gigantic. Like they are we as human beings are so multifaceted. We have like millions possibly of facets. You can't go in there right now. That's why I shut the door. No. Lola. Oh my gosh. There's anarchy in the Ponderosa. Are you okay? You're going to have to go find somewhere else. So yeah, we have millions of facets, and those millions of facets get broken down into these 12 zodiac archetypes. And within each archetype, even, there are thousands, tens of hundreds of thousands of facets within each archetype. And so when you come into a setting like YouTube, where most content is packaged in like 10 to 20-minute sound bites, how on earth are you ever going to communicate the mountain, the Mount Everest that is every single one of the zodiac archetypes? And so this is something that became clear to me like almost immediately stepping into the astrology space. As I did very quickly, within a few months of studying, I began giving readings to other people. And so because of that, I wanted to learn about all 12 zodiacs as much as I possibly could. And so on Facebook, I was on Facebook at the time, I'm not anymore. But I joined like all of these different astrology groups, and it was so fascinating because I got a lot of them will let you in no matter what. And in the ones where it was like, this is an Aries sun group only, like nobody else is allowed. Like I would still apply because you never know, it never hurts to ask. Maybe that's the rule breaker in me, but I'm still going to apply, and you can reject me if you need to. And a lot of those you would let me in. And so in the little box, I would put, I'm an astrologer and I do want to learn. I'm studying. So, let me in or don't, whatever. And so I got in all of these specific groups about each of the 12 zodiac signs, and some that were even like, this is an Aries moon group and this is a Taurus rising group. Like there were it was so many groups. And so I got to peek in on people who most identified with each of these energies. And the part that was fascinating was that all 12 of them had so many things in common. Like one, they all feel misunderstood. They all feel like they're the one who gets the most shit out of all the zodiacs. It's so funny because I'm a Gemini sun and I always felt that way. I always thought like, God, Geminis get a lot of hate. Like, that's not fair. Like, what's up with Geminis? Like, why has everybody got such a problem with Geminis? I'm a Gemini, so I'm sensitive. I'm sensitive to being on the receptive end of that. I can and have and sometimes still do take it personally when other people misunderstand the energy of Gemini, because I do so heavily resonate with it. But as I observed them all, it really struck me how they all had that same complaint. They all had the same viewpoint of we are the most misunderstood. So I feel like that boils down into how complex each of these archetypes is. And, like, we come to this earnestly, I think, because, pop astrology, if you've been aware at all of like sun sign astrology for the last 20, 30 years, as it's like moved into the mainstream, it's like we're taught that you're one of these. You're one energy. That's the only one. And some people really resonate with their sun sign. Some people really don't because they have so much other stuff going on in their chart. But we're taught that, like, all Geminis are like this, and all Pisces are like this, and all Leos are like this. And it's like, not really, because we're all 12 of them. So they dance together and they have their own facets within themselves. And like, even, the Pisces archetype, for example, breaks down into multiple different archetypes. I feel like we could swim down a well in so many different directions, and we're only ever talking about Pisces. So, I mean, I would love to do that. I would love to have like a whole 2-hour live stream of like, let's just focus on Pisces energy as an example. If you're into that kind of thing and you do want to get into that level of exploration, maybe let me know in the comments. And if ever that's something that we want to explore, we can do that. But in a setting like this, or YouTube in general, it's like you have to pick highlights. You have to. And that act of picking the highlights, like, that's communication. That's the art of communication. That's where we each get to put our soul print into what we bring forward, into how we present our knowledge, into the highlights that we choose to share, because for us, those were the most impactful things that came to mind at the time. Like, the way that we put our knowledge and information together and choose to share it, that's the art form of communicating. And each of us has a different Mercury sign. Each of us has different things going on in our third house. We each have our own style of communicating what we know to be true on the inside. And what I'm realizing, I think, more than ever before, and this is more kind of taking a sidestep into a shadow workspace real quick, is like that sensitivity to feeling misunderstood. It's not an archetype that fits in a zodiac. It's like human nature. It's our illusion of separation from others. It's, I realize in my own sensitivity when I feel misunderstood, because that happens. That's one of my major shadow work loops that I go through. I've attributed a lot to my Gemini Chiron in the third house, having to do with feeling like no matter how many words I put towards something, I can't be understood. So there's that I work through in levels. And then there's my Leo moon, who really, really wants to make other people happy. And when I make other people happy, it's so much easier and in harmony for me to be happy. So there's so much energy that, for me personally, feeling misunderstood is something I brush up against a lot. And so I've spent a lot of time with it like it's a teacher, which is kind of how I think about it. If we have a negative emotion that we're with on a regular basis, like feeling misunderstood, feeling separate, feeling isolated, feeling lonely, all of those kind of, I feel like, vibrate in a similar space. When we're in that space, like, it's a medicine. It's a like I heard also on the Deja Blue podcast, different episode, that one was with Reggie Riverbear, but she was talking about how like basically life is one big trip. Life is one big ceremony. Life is one big initiation. Every single thing that we manifest in our life is medicine. And sometimes the medicine burns as we apply it, like rubbing alcohol on road rash, that burns, but that's healing. That's stepping in the right direction. And some medicine soothes, like a salve that you put on a burn that soothes it. So all medicine is different, you know, all medicine, it depends on what's wrong with you and where you are. And that kind of dictates what kind of medicine do you need to get to where you ultimately want to be on your soul's highest path. And looking at life like that, you know, when we look at feeling misunderstood as medicine, what does that really mean? What is that really helping us to heal? Why does it hurt so bad to be misunderstood? And that is something that, I mean, I feel like I've spent my life trying to understand that question. So if you guys have any thoughts, I would love to hear. Like the teacher of feeling misunderstood, like what is it really teaching us? And another teacher that I sit with often is guilt. I have a lot of guilt that usually I would describe it as something like phantom guilt, where I'm feeling guilty and consciously I have no association for why. And I just am like giving myself a guilt trip for like no reason. And I'll wake up in that circle sometimes. And it's like sleepwalking almost, that like I just, there are times where I gravitate towards feeling guilty. And it's like, why? Why? What is that teacher trying to teach you? You know? And I share all of that not to really give the answer, because I'm still very much sitting with my own teacher of feeling misunderstood. Um, but I do know that I've learned a couple tools, a couple of bridges over the time that I've sat with this teacher. And one of them is, it's not important for other people to understand me. It's important for me to understand me, right? It's not important to be understood per se. There are past life memories. A lot of times there are past life experiences where maybe you were misunderstood and even like persecuted for it, or put to death because people judged you and it was even just a misunderstanding, like they just didn't know you. And like I think the Salem witch trials like fits into that category, but like basically it's that kind of past life trauma that gives us things in this lifetime where there are some of us who are just naturally guilty. Like we have this vibration of guilt. We sit with this teacher of guilt, or this teacher of feeling misunderstood, or feeling isolated, or like we're different and we are the one who is different. I used to sit with that teacher a lot. And again, the medicine I found there was like, as soon as you speak out, as soon as you say out loud, like who you are, you claim it and you honor it enough to say it out loud, that there's a shift that takes place like in your whole life, where you manifest different results, where it's like not even that the other people change or that the outside world changes, but that your response to the same stimuli is now different. Like you personally have evolved. And that's really what Pisces energy is all about. Pisces is the end of the 12 zodiac signs. It's that cycle, that wheel of fortune that is this life that we're all living in. We go around and around and around. It's a cycle for each of us, and we all contain parts of all of it. And at the end of that cycle is Pisces. And I loved this video that I found the other day. I put it on the playlist on my channel. So if you go onto the channel Owning Authenticity and go to the playlist tab, there is a playlist that I like put all of the different videos that I watch while I prepare for the transits that we're going to talk about, as much as I can to put those videos there. Also, I started putting just other cool things that I found this week. So that's all on there if you're ever looking for like some cool videos that Carly recommends. So anyways, on that playlist, there is a video called 3 common misconceptions of the zodiac sign Pisces. And it's part of a series of the common misconceptions of all 12 of the zodiac signs. And it's Achyuta who presented this series. And so that whole thing is on his channel. Highly, highly recommend. If there is, especially if there's one of the zodiacs that you can't find inside of yourself, like maybe watch his video on that, because sometimes the reason we can't find one of the energies inside of ourselves is because we misunderstand what that energy even looks like. And Pisces is a common one, I feel like, where I personally have my North Node in Pisces. So I have been walking a my Pisces energy my whole life. My Mars is also in Pisces, so that kind of gives me some natural energy in that realm. Thankfully, I lined that up for myself to make my North Node a little bit more pulling on me from this direction. But Pisces is an energy that specifically, like, it represents things that are unseen and non-physical and beyond our physical ability to understand. And that concept all by itself means that, if anything, I probably would agree at that point that Pisces probably is the most misunderstood of all the signs, just because the very nature of Pisces is that it's elusive and it disintegrates and it blends and flows into the infinite. And like, how are you supposed to like gather it back up and like really fully ever comprehend it? So like Neptune and Pisces both, I think, operate in a way where as you're ready to understand them deeper, as it becomes necessary or helpful for you to understand them, the understanding just kind of naturally unfolds piece by piece by piece. Like, I've tried on many occasions to go and like study Neptune or go study Pisces, and it's mostly very frustrating because the only thing that you're getting are the stereotypes. That's mostly what people are presenting on those two things, and you can just feel that that's not the whole picture, because it's not, because the very nature of Pisces means we have to feel it. We can't explain it in words. Like, it's only something that you can feel. And that's where, for me, as a perfect example, like as far as me expressing what Pisces energy is, that is limited. My ability to do that is limited by my own ability to feel it, my own depth of feeling and experiencing my own Pisces energy. And as a Pisces North Node, I'm like, that's probably something that's going to deepen and expand, probably, but for all of us, our whole entire lives, because it's so multifaceted, right? And we're human. There's only one point of focus in any given moment. So as a human being contemplating something that has 1,000 facets, it'll have to get broken down into pieces, and contemplate one piece at a time. And then through a feeling space, through an intuitive space, through a heart-centered space, all those pieces can combine to a felt understanding of what Pisces energy really is. And I think all of the zodiac signs have to go through that process. If you're wanting to like really personalize your astrology and work with it like this, you kind of go through this with every single zodiac. But I mean, Pisces it exists in the feeling realm mostly. In that video, the 3 common misconceptions of Pisces, he talks about the astronomy side, which is something that I don't dabble in the astronomy side like at all. Like, how does it all work like this? I don't know, because that's astronomy, right? But he explained in a way that I actually got it, and I was like, that's really cool. So he explained how there is a light half of the year and there's a dark half of the year. And what that means is that there is 6 months where in the 24 hours of the day, there's more light than dark. That's the light half of the year. And then there's 6 months of the year in the 24 hours of the day, there's more dark than light. So that's the dark half of the year. And Pisces, as the 12th zodiac sign, is part of the dark half of the year. but it's also the end, the 12th, and it's going to move back into the first, into Aries. And Aries is the dominant light. That's the peak light on the planet is in Aries. So within Pisces, the two fish, he explains, are like one of them is swimming upward, like wanting to merge with spirit, with the divine, to just let yourself blend into the allness, into the oneness. And then there's the other fish that's swimming down that inherently understands that we as physical humans are here to be in the physical. So there's this pull back to the physical realm and being in the physical realm. And yet there's this other pull that's pulling us back to spirit, and then the pull back to the earth realm, and pulling back to spirit, pulling back to the earth realm. So what he describes, when you have heavy Pisces energy, mind you, we all have at least a sliver of it somewhere in our being. But when you have a lot of planets or points there, or, you know, if you have a doubled up dose of that sign, meaning you have it on the cusp of two different houses, if that's really, really dominant in your energy grid, that he called it wrestling, like the wrestling between like merging back to source and coming back to the physical. And I want to call it a dance, because it is what it is. Like there's no getting around it. There's this like back and forth, and there's, especially when we have what we have going on right now, where the Pisces energy in the sky right now is sextiling the Taurus energy in the sky right now. And when you have a sextile between Taurus and Pisces, it's even a stronger pull back into the physical. Like, yes, it's amazing to merge with spirit and to have these divine spiritual experiences that are profound and transcendental. And we merge with our consciousness, our fuller being in a new way. And like that is intoxicating and can be addictive. And especially when there's a sextile with Taurus, we have to bring all of that deliciousness back out of the non-physical realm, back into the earth realm. And once we get back to the earth realm, it's very, this is one of those misunderstandings about Pisces, that like they are escapist or numbing, or like this tendency to live in a fantasy land, basically. And it seems like what it boils down to is like in this dance back and forth between non-physical and physical. In the non-physical, in our imagination, in our heart, we can have it the ideal version of what we want it to be. When we feel love in our heart, it's pure, or it can be. And then when we bring it out into the physical, like for example, if I'm sitting here in my space and I feel this divine love and I want to share it, so I make a video, I post it on YouTube, and then someone comments and they misunderstand me and they take issue with what I've said. It's like when you bring the ethereal back into the physical, you're met with the resistance that's present in the physical. And because of that, it's like, you know, when our consciousness lands on something that's hot, that hurts, like just like when your hand lands on the stove, like you pull it off. Like this is like that, where I think Pisces energy, if left to its own devices, it is more comfortable merging with spirit. It's more comfortable on that upward trajectory. And so there can be a tendency to just want to stay up there, versus like the Pisces 12th zodiac, where yes, it's part of the dark half of the sky. It's where we merge everything back into one, but it's also the handoff point back into Aries, back into the first zodiac, the first house, the first energy of I am, where we have a solo identity. We have a will and a mission and a force to exert in the world, which is not Pisces. And that's why, you know, Pisces is a chapter as we come through it, same as every other zodiac sign. They each have something to teach us. They're all a teacher, that I think each of us is getting something different from each one of them based on whatever healing journey we're here to do in this lifetime. And for each of us, that's such a unique process. So Maddie put the prep playlist over there. That's amazing. Oh, Maddie, did you share the link for the individual sessions, or to like book an individual session? You might put that there in case anybody wants to check it out. As a Pisces Aries cusp, that is my life. It's a dance. He also described it, and this was another reason for the numbing. And the numbing, I think, that is associated with Pisces comes from a state of disappointment more than anything else. That when you have something that exists in the ethereal and it's perfect, and then you bring it into the physical, it's never going to be perfect. It just isn't going to be. Like, that's why Virgo energy, the opposite of Pisces, is where we ground into the physical. We have very realistic eyes as we look out onto the details of the physical, including ourselves, warts and all. That's in Stephen Forrest's Book of Earth, as he talks about Virgo energy. He says that a lot, warts and all, warts and all. That's what Virgo is here to accept. That Virgo end of that Pisces Virgo is radical self-acceptance, warts and all of it, all the imperfection, all the unhealed parts of yourself, all the, whatever issue you take with yourself. I got a whole list all the time. Like, it's always a work in progress. We're never going to be perfect in the physical. Perfection only exists in the ethereal, in the imagined state, in the purity of a feeling energetic place. And the dance, I think it can move from wrestling to a dance if we're willing to acknowledge like the joy of getting to do both, the joy of knowing how to merge back to spirit and to be divinely inspired with whatever knowing and understanding, and basically whatever is meant for the collective to receive at this time. That's what Pisces is giving us. Like, in that 3 common misconceptions about Pisces, I love how he goes through a whole long list of Pisces suns and like people who are born during Sun and Pisces season. And they are all over the place with like, what did they do with their life? Steve Jobs, Shaquille O'Neal, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Einstein, on and on and on. And some baddies too, some serial killers, some war criminals. Like, there are so many different manifestations of all 12 of the zodiac energies. And so that video series that he did, I can't wait to watch them all. I'm so excited. His Pisces one was exceptional. The Taurus one, I got through about half of that before I needed to switch out of it. So highly recommend his session on that. So Jody says, I'm Virgo and perfect. No warts here, only perfect. And then the sweating, crying, laughing emoji, because yeah, like that's shadow Virgo, is perfectionism. And as a Virgo South node, I have healed a lot around my perfectionism. And when that's another piece of that teacher of feeling misunderstood, it also stomps on my need for perfection. And that has held me back a lot of my life, where I'm like not willing to express myself yet because I don't have it all thought out. I don't have it all the way I want. I need to work on my argument some more. I need to work on like pulling the pieces together some more. I'm still working on perfecting it, so I'm not going to share it yet. And then 99% of all of my everything dies along that path, and nothing ever sees the light of day. Because in Virgo, to be successful with Virgo energy, you have to be willing to say it's finished, warts and all. And that's freaking difficult if you're a perfectionist who is like, no warts allowed, like that. I'm not tolerating that. The less we tolerate it, the more we're on the shadow side of Virgo and running on a wheel of perfectionism that like is an illusion. Because in the physical, that's where Pisces can be the escapist, because they bring this beautiful love-filled idea out into the world, and it's met with ridicule and criticism, and they're like, ouch, and then they go back to the ethereal, where like it's just easy there. It's just smooth. No one disagrees with me. Everything is love. Everything is light. I like it there. Yeah, me too. I love it there. But if we don't ever bring it back to the physical, I mean, and that maybe also depends on like how your unique energy is wired, just in terms of like your unique mix of the 12 zodiac signs. Like, how much time are you intending to spend in the ethereal versus how much time are you intending to spend in the physical? Because I'm coming from a place of being a Taurus rising, Capricorn midheaven, Virgo south node. Like, I can't help but have to bring it back to the physical. Like, it's just in the cross of like how I'm wired. My feminine is wanting to ground it back to the physical. My masculine wants to ground it back to